Imagine it's late on Christmas Eve. The house is finally quiet. The tree lights are still glowing, the wrapping paper is piled in a corner, and in the living room, a fireplace is burning softly, casting a warm orange light. Right in front of it, there's one last little still life, a plate of cookies, a glass of milk, maybe even a carrot or two for the reindeer. Parents tiptoe around it. Kids keep sneaking out of bed to check if it's still there. We all know on some level what's really going on. And yet, we keep doing it year after year. In this story, we're asking a simple question with a surprisingly long history. Why did people start leaving food out at night for Santa in the first place? And what does this tradition have to do with ancient gods, household spirits, and a very tough time in American history? Long before anyone had heard of Santa Claus, people were already leaving food out at night. In many ancient cultures, the hearth, the place where the fire burned, was seen as a doorway between our world and another, quieter one. Families might leave a bit of bread, a cup of drink, or some grain near the fire. Some believed it would please friendly spirits who watched over the home. Others thought it might calm down any grumpy beings passing through, the kind you didn't really want to meet. We don't have video from 2,000 years ago, of course, but we do have written hints, legends, and customs that survived in different corners of Europe and beyond. The message is surprisingly similar. If someone unseen is watching over you, it's polite to leave them a little something. In Northern Europe, there were stories of small household spirits who guarded farms and families. In Scandinavia, for example, people told tales of a creature sometimes called a nisse or tomte, a little bearded figure who lived around the house or barn. If you were kind to him and gave him a bowl of porridge, especially at midwinter, he might protect your animals and help with chores. If you forgot, well, according to the stories, he might play tricks or let things go wrong. Similar ideas appear in other cultures, too. Small guardians, helpful or mischievous, who liked a bit of food in return for their silent work. These weren't Santas yet, but the idea that winter visitors seen or unseen deserved a snack was already firmly in place. Now let's move north, into the world of Norse legends. Before Santa had his famous sleigh and reindeer, the god Odin was said to ride across the winter sky on his 8-legged horse, Sleipnir. During a midwinter festival called Yule, some children in parts of northern Europe were believed to leave out food, often hay or treats, for Odin's magical horse. In return, Odin might leave them small gifts or sweets in their shoes or near the hearth. Sound familiar? A mysterious, bearded sky rider, a special winter night, children leaving treats for a magical animal and hoping for gifts in return. Historians are careful here. They don't say Santa is just Odin in a red suit. But many agree that bits and pieces of these older stories, including the habit of leaving food out for a traveling gift-giving figure, helped shape later Christmas traditions. As Christianity spread across Europe, another figure rose to fame, St. Nicholas, a bishop known at least in legend for his generosity to children and the poor. In some places, children began to leave shoes or small offerings out in honor of St. Nicholas, especially around his feast day in early December. In return, they might wake up to find nuts, fruits, or little gifts. So now we have a pattern repeating itself across time. A powerful figure connected to winter, children leaving out something in his honor, and the hope of presents in the morning. All we're missing are the cookies. Jump forward to the 1800s. The Victorian era in Britain and similar periods in Europe are when many of our classic Christmas images really take shape. Decorated trees, stockings by the fire, carols, and sentimental stories. Writers like Charles Dickens helped turn Christmas into a time of warmth, charity, and family gatherings by the fireplace. The idea of a magical gift giver visiting the home at night now, often called Father Christmas or St. Nicholas, became part of cozy holiday storytelling. In some households, especially in Britain and parts of Europe, people would leave a little food or drink by the hearth for Father Christmas. Sometimes it might be a mince pie or a glass of something stronger than milk. After all, delivering presents all night is hard work. Meanwhile, across the Atlantic, European immigrants were bringing their own winter traditions to North America. Dutch families told stories of Santa Claus. Germans brought Christmas trees and their own St. Nicholas customs. English settlers had Father Christmas. In the American imagination, these figures slowly blended together into one character, Santa Claus. Poems like A Visit from St. Nicholas, also known as 'Twas the Night Before Christmas, described Santa visiting homes, eating, drinking, and heading back up the chimney. The poem doesn't mention cookies and milk specifically, but it does show Santa as a jolly guest who drops in at night. And what do polite hosts do for guests? Of course, they offer refreshments. Now we reach a very important chapter in the story, the 1930s in the United States during the Great Depression. Times were extremely hard for many families. Jobs were scarce. Food could be limited. Parents had to stretch every dollar and every meal. You might expect that in such a difficult period, people would stop doing anything extra for the holidays. But this is exactly when the tradition of leaving cookies and milk for Santa became especially strong in many American households. Several historians and folklorists believe that during the Great Depression, parents used the tradition of feeding Santa as a gentle lesson. Even when they had very little, they encouraged their children to set aside a small portion of what they did have, a couple of cookies, a glass of milk, as a gift for someone else. They explained that Santa worked hard all night, so it was kind to offer him a snack. It sounds simple, but the message was powerful. Even when life is tough, we can still be generous. We can still think about others, and we can still practice gratitude and hospitality. Slowly, this became a cherished scene in American homes. Kids carefully arranging the cookies on a plate, maybe writing a note, and going to bed with a sense of excitement and kindness mixed together. So why did the snack end up being cookies and milk specifically? Part of the answer is practical. In many mid-20th century American homes, cookies were a common homemade treat at Christmas. They were something families could bake together. Milk was an everyday drink, safe for kids and widely available. Putting them together created the perfect Santa snack, sweet, simple, and easy for children to help prepare. Over time, illustrations, advertisements, and greeting cards reinforced this image. Santa, big white beard, red suit, and a plate of cookies with a glass of milk. Before long, it didn't just feel like an option, it felt like the tradition. Of course, not everyone feeds Santa the same thing. In the United Kingdom and some Commonwealth countries, many families traditionally leave a mince pie for Father Christmas and sometimes a small glass of sherry or another holiday drink. The reindeer might get carrots or apples. In Australia and New Zealand, where Christmas happens in the summer, some families leave out cool drinks or lighter snacks, and again, treats for the reindeer. In parts of Europe and Latin America, different gift givers get different snacks. The three kings, for example, might be offered sweets, while their camels get hay or water. What remains constant is the heart of the ritual. A child leaves a gift of food for a nighttime visitor who brings joy. The details change from country to country, but the feeling is the same. Now, let's step gently behind the curtain. Every year, when the house is quiet, countless parents all over the world transform into Santa's helpers. They take a bite of a cookie, maybe drink some of the milk, and sometimes leave a few strategic crumbs on the plate. Some go all out adding snowy boot prints made of flour on the floor, or writing a thank you note in curly handwriting from Santa himself. Others keep it simple, just enough to make a child's eyes light up in the morning. On the surface, it's a tiny thing. Just a cookie, just a glass of milk. But for many families, it's also a shared secret, a way for adults to give children one more year of wonder. Psychologists who study traditions in childhood often point out that rituals like this do more than create fun memories. They also help children learn empathy. When kids think about what Santa might like to eat, they're practicing putting themselves in someone else's shoes. They imagine his long journey, his tired reindeer, his busy night. Then they respond with care. We should leave him something. In a very gentle way, this simple act teaches that guests should be welcomed, hard work should be appreciated, and sharing is part of celebration. Today, the standard plate of cookies and glass of milk has many playful variations. Some families leave hot cocoa instead. Others leave out a special family recipe, Grandma's gingerbread, or a particular kind of cookie that Santa loves. There are even families who leave out healthier snacks and joke that Santa might need a little help with his diet. The tradition adjusts to new diets, new values, and new jokes. But the core is unchanged, an offer of kindness. If you think about it, the moment when the cookies are set out is one of the quietest, calmest minutes of the entire holiday season. The shopping is done. The wrapping is mostly finished. The house is finally slowing down. It's just a small act. A plate, a glass, maybe a note that says, "Thank you, Santa." But in that moment, children are learning something that goes far beyond one night a year, that giving and thanking can be just as magical as receiving. So, why do we leave cookies for Santa? Because for thousands of years, people have felt that visitors, especially mysterious winter visitors, should be welcomed with food. Because old stories of gods, saints, and household spirits slowly turned into the jolly man in the red suit. And because, in one of the hardest times in modern history, parents decided that teaching generosity was more important than guarding every crumb. Next time you see that plate of cookies by the fireplace, you can picture all those layers of history behind it. And whether you still believe in Santa or not, you'll know that the real magic was never just in the presents under the tree. It was in the small, sweet gift left out on the table, waiting in the glow of the Christmas lights.